what do we know so far? What are the questions that COVID poses on NTDs or NTDs on COVID? What have we learned so far? And then I'm sure we'll learn more, and we'll have to meet next year to see, take conclusions. So I just want to run through some ideas. It's nothing fixed. It's something that's in, the fact that COVID is everywhere, that we say that we're COVIDizing everything, and how we can connect back to NTDs. That's a bit the idea of this presentation. So maybe to start with, as you said kindly in your introduction, so DNDi genesis was in fact related to the lack of access to essential drugs for MSF doctors who couldn't find solutions to treat their patients. And they received the Peace Nobel Prize and then decided to engage in some work for neglected tropical diseases and find solutions. But what happened in 2020, and this was in 15 years back, but what happened in 2020 is that in a similar way, we looked at what was happening. Some of us researchers look at what was happening in low and middle income countries. Was research gaps going to be addressed for COVID? Was there attention? Was there not a risk of neglect for the needs of LMICs? And at that time, in March of last year, it was very clear that all the research was taking place elsewhere. So there was a kind of neglect area of research, and also a need for doing more for COVID. And obviously, this is how DNDi, with many others, we proposed a call for coalition of the willing of researchers to promote the needs and find ways to engage into research for COVID. So this is a bit the link. And I think the fil rouge, if you want, the red thread in this presentation is how we have parallels between NTDs and COVID. So what is the potential, what are the potential interrelations between COVID and NTDs and repurposing? So, the pillars of what we're doing in public health, we do R&D, we do this for public health impact, we do this with health systems, and we take care of patients. And we have in mind the economic impact of what we do and why we do this for those populations. And repurposing is about adapting what we were doing for NTDs or what others are doing for NTDs for use in a different purpose, in the very large sense of things. So if we start looking at care and health structure and stuff, how has repurposed, how has it taken place? And I'm sorry that we couldn't have WHO because they are really they've done a lot, and they are the first front runners in having to manage this. But as we all know, resources have been repurposed to manage health issues with COVID, and to look at ways of, for example, doing the social isolation and everything. But there's been a negative impact, clear negative impact also. As we know, where some of it's written here, some of the mass drug administration programs have been put on hold. Some of the active case management, case screening, have also been put on hold to manage the crisis. And so this has had a really negative impact on NTDs. And maybe the positive one is that there are more, hygiene, health, wash measures and all of that may have helped, but we'll have to measure the impact of this. Nevertheless, it's really impressive to see that the WHO NTD set up different initiatives to manage and try to understand how to manage the impact of COVID on NTDs, and how could the NTDs and the COVID stuff be repurposed, but also the future of not abandoning the NTDs priorities with the roadmap in mind. So that is one example and one impact, reprogramming, repurposing stuff from NTDs to COVID. Another question that we can ask ourselves is, do we know if there are any medical interactions of coexisting, having, for example, COVID and one NTD. And our colleague from Argentina, Sergio Sosaestani, with colleagues, published a paper looking at different areas of potential impact of COVID on Chagas. And they identified the fact that there might be some potential reactivation of chronic patients with chronic indeterminate Chagas that could be due to the virus or to immunosuppression or even to some drugs that would be given to treat Chagas. They also envisaged that there could be a direct impact of SARS-CoV-2 on the cardiac tissue, and all of that could impact Chagas. They also made some recommendation of how to treat different stages of Chagas in different patients. So that was one interesting publication looking really at the interplay between the two diseases. There's also a team in Nigeria that looked at the effect of schistosomiasis and treatment of schisto on COVID. And what they identified was that schisto could increase the rate of unfavorable COVID-19 outcomes, but conversely, that treatment for schisto could decrease the active COVID cases and increase recovery rates. So also another way of looking at the interplay between the two. Now, in terms of our work on clinical trials, and my colleagues have been before and will come after to speak about their own work. But yes, it has had a time effect. We have experienced delays in the work we are doing for NTD. So just purely on R&D, we have had impact on achieving our ability to provide solutions due to COVID. We've had significant delays in phase 1 studies conducted in EU, in fact, I should say in the UK. We've had delays in recruitment of ongoing clinical trials in some of the regions, for example, in Sudan on mycetoma, due to either the program stopping or the quarantine measures or the isolation, so patients couldn't travel back to the sites. So they couldn't they couldn't be recruited. We've had delays in contract signatures because people were busy with other priorities. We've had some health staff that was infected by SARS-CoV-2, so that definitely impacts, and I mean in the hospitals. And in one of our study in sleeping sickness, the active case finding has been slowed down, so that has impacted this program. Now, we have described before the value of repurposing for NTDs. So do we, is this still also of interest for COVID? And the value of repurposing is that you save time by having drugs that have, for which you have already a lot of information in terms of their safety, because you have already manufactured them. Because they have been most of the time already registered. So a lot of things that take so much time during the value chain are done. And what you have to do is just go for a new indication. And so you will save tremendous time, which is critical in our response to COVID, but also you will reduce costs, which is important too. And so, yes, of course, everything has been around repurposed drugs, most of it. So here you have a nice publication looking at how machine learning has been, and don't ask me how it works because I don't know, but what you can see is here you have the list of the drugs, and you see here the different, what they call the hallmarks of what kind of efficacy they could see, and then they draft some radar, some presentations where they see the value of each of the drug. So that was one way of looking at repurposing. And this paper showed that, which were the active drugs that have been repurposed for COVID. So a whole range of drugs from different categories. And here you can see ivermectin as one of the candidates. So just one example, because this example of ivermectin is quite important, because ivermectin is, of course, a treatment for NTD that's repurposed for COVID. So where we stand now is that the story of ivermectin, I'm sure you know, but it was discovered in the 70s in Japan by Kitasato Institute. It was first used for animal health and then repurposed for human treatment of onchocerciasis, and then with TDR, and then later registered for other indications that are listed here. Now, the interesting thing is that it's been now largely tested for COVID. In fact, at different stages of the disease, either as prophylactic treatment, either for the treatment of mild or severe cases of COVID. You can see here that there's been it's a preprint of a meta-analysis already of Andrew Hill on the effect of ivermectin on COVID. And I just checked this morning, there are still 37 studies looking at ivermectin for various populations of patients with COVID. So clearly a huge impact of a repurposed drug that could become one of the tools to manage COVID. But there are some questions that we need to think about because of this repurposing effort. The first one, looking broadly on the public health consequences, well, it's very good if ivermectin can be used in regions, for the world, but what will be the impact on the MDA programs? Should we wait? Do we have, in fact, enough capacity to manufacture, to manufacture ivermectin at scale? And what will be the impact on the MDA program? And I have to say that with the response to COVID, there is the ACT-A, this big initiative regrouping the big donors and WHO to manage all of this and globally, that is really looking very in details of how this can be achieved, and they will find a way, I'm confident. Then the regulatory aspects, we shouldn't, forget about that. So it's probably going to go through emergency use listing, but then how do we manage the fact that most probably we will be using doses that were not the ones that are used for onchocerciasis? Are we going to learn something about the mechanism of action of ivermectin? I was just thinking, well, maybe we'll learn something that will help to repurpose it for another indication, who knows? And of course, we also have to think about the impact on the co-infected individuals. So I'm almost finished. This is the slide that describes the partners that are working on Antikov, which is a study where we're working with colleagues here on looking at a COVID response for outpatients. And what I couldn't do, because it would have made the slides even more busy, is in fact to highlight that each of these institutions that is working on COVID now was also and is also historically has been involved in NTD. So even at the institutional level, DNDIS, but many others, all those for which you see the logo here, almost all of them, they were working on NTDs. They've repurposed themselves to COVID. And finally, something which is so worrying, that we know this vicious cycle of poverty related to NTDs, the poor patients being at risk of having an NTD, being then more impoverished by the NTD, which puts them back to even more poverty. And there was this report from the UN that also looked at the impact of COVID on poverty. So I think it's a double threat. It's a double threat to some of the populations, and we can't just separate them. They are even more vulnerable than ever. So this is something I just wanted to highlight, because it's so devastating to see that the impact is always on the same ones. So can we conclude anything? So I think so far the good news is that we can see that, when you have a pandemic like this, you can mobilize resources. And in fact, you can make things happen very fast. We've seen incredible progress. The solidarity, the recovery results are just incredible. The speed of the vaccine, that's great. And that's quite encouraging. And I wish we could see the same, in fact, for NTDs. And in fact, the other thing is that we see that for NTDs, we've been very much looking at the same strategy of looking at repurposed, having short-term, medium-term, long-term approaches, which is exactly what's happening with COVID. But there are also some negatives, and the impact on the healthcare workers, the fact that resources could shift, the fact that ODA funding has decreased, and that can impact our chances. So we have to be very vigilant and just keep communicating about not forgetting about NTDs in the context of COVID. Lastly, I've added 2 publications which I found really, very interesting, and no time to speak more. And I think I'll stop here. Thank you.